Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we'll be learning how to make this beautiful corset dress with a keyhole neckline and a basque waistline. So for this dress, we'll first of all draft our upper part. So for the upper part, I'll be folding my pattern paper into two, and I've already marked my neckline, my armhole line, my half length and my blouse length. Now I'll be marking half an inch all the way down to the blouse length. So I'll just roll this half an inch straight. This will act as my bust bridge for the corset top. So now I'm going to be taking my bra cup and I'll place it to get my underbust. If you mark your underbust directly without placing the bra cup, it might be too long, so that's why you have to place your bra cup first. So now I'm going to mark from my shoulder now to my underbust. My underbust is 14, so I'm just going to be marking the underbust like this. Then I'll mark where I have the 14 now that I've placed the bra cup. I'll just mark it and then I can take it out, and then I'll just mark what I have there and mark it all the way. I'll mark it all the way and then I'll rule it. Now that I've gotten my underbust, I'm just going to place my cup properly now and draw out where the cup is going to sit. So at this point, you can, if you want it to be a bit slanted, you can bend it that way, but I just want mine to be this straight. If you still want it straight out, you can still achieve it while it's this straight. So now I've drawn out the shape of my bra cup. So I'm just going to be marking 1/4 of my bust measurements, and then I'll add 1 inch seam allowance, 1/4 of my half length measurements, and then I'll add 1 inch seam allowance. Then my upper waist measurements, I'll add 1/4, and then I'll add seam allowance as well, which is your upper hip. So I'm going to be forming my shoulder slope. I'll divide my armhole into two, and then I'll go in by half an inch, and then I'll just roll it and connect it to my original bust measurement with this curve like this. So now I'm just going to be rolling all the lines and connecting all of them together. On the side, I'll be going up by 1.5 inch, and then I'll connect it slantly. I'll just connect it with my curve, a little bit of curve. So now this is what I've drafted. It's going to be for my back and my front. So remember that this pattern paper is on fold. So I'm just going to be cutting off only the first neckline, which is 3 by 1 inch. So now I'll divide the paper into two. I've already gotten my back and my front. So now this is my front. I'm going to take down the 3 by 3 neckline. Now this is my front yoke, that part. Then I'm going to be drafting the yoke for my back as well. I'll come down with about 8 inches, and then I'll just connect it with a little bit of curve to the back, from the armhole, that part to the back. So you can connect it anyhow. If you want yours to be really deep, you can bring it down more than that. So now I'm going to be going in by 1.5. This is going to be the part where I'll be taking out for my lacing bar. So I'll be cutting that part out. That is what will act as the opening, which will help to snatch the waistline together, since I'm not reducing from my waistline. So that 1.5 is what is going to help me to snatch the waistline. So now that is my back yoke. So for this now, I'll just cut this part out. Remember, I told you this part is not part of the pattern anymore, so that place has already been cut out. So now this is the front and this is the back. Now I'm just going to take out the yoke for the front. Sorry, I didn't know my camera wasn't recording up to that part. So now I'm going to cut out the part for the bra cup out as well. So now this is what we have for the front. Now this is the front yoke. Now for the front yoke, on the neckline, I'm going to come down by 2 inches from that part of the neckline, and then I'll cut that part out. Now I'll cut down by 2 inches, then I'll just connect it with my curve ruler like this, and then I'll just cut that part out. If you want yours to be really not so as open as this, you can also just according to the way you want yours to be. If you want it to be this opened or not too open, you can just use the figures that you think will match, for that will be okay for you. So now this is how it's going to be joined, and then my back up is going to be in the middle. I'm sorry for not recording that part very well. I didn't know my camera didn't capture it. Now for the main fabric, I'm using a blue plain fabric. Now I've already gone ahead to gum my wording on the lining, and then for the main fabric I gum stay. Now this bra cup part is going to be having my main fabric, and I'm using Ankara for the main fabric, but for the belly of it I'm using a plain fabric. So now what I'll just do is to fold my bra cup, and then I'll add half an inch all the way round. So I'll just cut it out. Make sure to notch the center part of this bra cup. I'll place it, and I'll be cutting 8 pieces, 4 for the main fabric and 4 for the lining, but I'll be using a plain fabric for the lining. So now this middle part, make sure that you notch it. Then I'll just also go ahead to cut the one for the lining. You have to notch that part so that you know the part that is going to be on the middle. So now this is the plain fabric I'm using for the belly of the dress. I'm just going to put a layer of net on top. You can do yours without net, but I just wanted mine to have a little bit of a lush feel, so you can do yours without net, but I just decided to add a layer of net to mine. Then I'm just pinning it down so I can iron it so it's not rumpled. And the pins will help hold it in place till when I go and sew it down. So now this part, this ankara, I'm using it for the back, so the ankara is going to be showing at the back. Now I've already gone ahead to iron it and just put everything aside. So for the chantilly net, I'm going to use it for the yoke and the sleeve. For the back, front and the back yoke, I'm going to use my chantilly net. Now for the lining part, I'm marking out where I'm going to be putting my boning line. Now I'm using 2-inch difference for the boning line. So you can use you add as much boning or as less boning as you want. It depends on the size of the person, or if you don't want yours to be too snatched or you don't want too much boning. So I just marked out where I'll put my boning line. Now for the back, I'm going to go half an inch away from the part where I'm going to sew. So from that part, I'm going to mark one line for the boning. Then I'll give half an inch separately. That half an inch part is where the eyelet is going to go into. So I'm just going to be rolling the line again. So I'm having 2 bones here, and then one more far from the boning, the part where I'm going to be having my eyelets. This one is going to be on its own. So I'll just go ahead to sew my bonings on my lining. So the boning, I'm going to be sewing a Ridgeline boning on it. Then I'll be putting a plastic boning under. So make sure that the plastic boning that you're going to be putting under is smaller than the Ridgeline boning. So I've gone ahead to sew mine and added my boning. If you want a detailed tutorial on how to sew, bone and the rest, I have another corset tutorial on my channel. I'll just link it in the description. So now I've gone ahead to sew the lining. Now I'm going to sew the one for the main fabric. I'm just going to join the sides. You just measure, and the allowance that you added, you're going to sew it out. I will do the same thing. I'll repeat the same for the lining. When I get to the waistline, after sewing it, I will notch the part out. I'll notch that part where the waistline is. So I'm going ahead to notch it and iron it. So this is what I have for the main fabric, and also for the lining I've gone ahead to do the same. You literally repeat the same thing for the lining and the main fabric. Now for the bra cup, the part where I notch is where I'm going to be sewing. So I'll just go to my sewing machine and then I'll put them together and sew it. I'll do the same thing for the lining and the main fabric. But before going to sew it, I forgot I wanted to add chantilly, so I just came to cut the chantilly according to what I have on the main fabric, and then I'll pin it down before going to stitch it on it. So just like this, I'm going to stitch the chantilly on top of the ankara, and then I'll come back and join each of them together. I'll join the 2 pieces to make one bra cup. So now this is what I did. I'll just pin it that quiet. Now I've gone ahead to join mine. This is what I have. So after that, I'll just go and pin it to my bra cup before going to sew. So this is what I'll just do. Make sure that it wraps the bra cup, and make sure that you have your little bit of the excess allowance at the top and on the side, so that you'll be able to make sure that it fits before trimming anything out. So I've gone ahead to pin it. I'll go to my sewing machine now to sew everything round. Now I've sewn it round. Now this is what I have. So for the lining, I'm just going to wear it on the back up and take a little bit of excess out of it before going to sew it on my lining, because now I've trimmed out some excess from the main fabric. So now I'm going to be measuring around my back up, measuring around my corset part, the opening. I'm just going to measure it around to make sure that it's going to go all the way into the corset top. So now after doing that, I'll go to my sewing machine and sew it around. I'll also repeat the same thing for the lining as well. Then after that, I'll go ahead to cut my corset yoke. I am using my chantilly to cut my yoke for the back and the front. You can use any net of your choice, or if you even want to use the main fabric, you can. So after cutting my chantilly nets, I'm going to be cutting a plain net as well that I will use for the lining. I didn't want it to just be one layer, I wanted it to be a bit thick. So I'm going to be cutting a plain net that I'll be using for the lining, which is to turn the yoke. So just like the way you lining your clothes, I'm going to be using this net now to act as a lining to this chantilly, because I want it to be a bit thick. So I'll just go ahead and turn it. For the front yoke, I'll turn the neckline and the bottom part of it, the bottom part and the upper part of the neck. So that's what I'll just do. Then the remaining part, I'll leave it open. I've gone ahead now to turn the upper part of the neck and the bottom part of the yoke, the neck. That's what I have. Then for the back, I did the same thing. I turned the neckline and the part where my hook and eye will go into, the middle part of the neck. So now I'm going to pin. I'll mark the middle with my chalk, and then I will pin it down. I'll pin the middle of this yoke to the middle of my corset. Now that I know that it's going to be balanced, I'm just going to be marking the parts where that is going to go into my armhole. I'll just mark it, and then I'll pin it as well. I'll do the same thing for the other side, and then I'll go ahead to stitch it down. I'll repeat the same thing here, then I'll go ahead to stitch it down. Then for the back as well, I'll place it just the way it is supposed to be. So now this is how it's going to be by the time I've gone to stitch it down. Then I'll join the shoulders. Now for the back, I'm going to be coming out by 1.5. You know, we took out 1.5 before the yoke. Now you see what I mean. I'll just take it like this. You see the part that has the part that ended where we have our armhole, you just pin it from there all the way, and then you will notice that you have an excess by the time you are done. That excess is the 1.5 inch that we came in by for the bottom part of the back of the blouse. Sorry. Now this is it. That excess is where you are going to be having your hook and eye. So we'll just stitch that part down. I'll go to my sewing machine and I'll stitch it down. Now I've gone ahead to stitch it down. Now this is what I have for the back. This is what I have as well. This is what I have. Then I'll go ahead to join the shoulder. But before joining the shoulder, I'll go ahead to first of all use my lining to turn this whole neckline all the way to the back, so that it will be easier for me to join the shoulder now that I still have freedom. So for this part, this excess part, I'm going to tuck it in like this, and then I'll put it in and I'll pin it this way before going to join it. Then I'll join that part as well, the whole back. I'll join everywhere, I'll close everywhere, leaving only the bottom parts open. So I've gone ahead to join it, and this is what I have. I'll now go and iron it very well. Now I have the freedom now to join the shoulder. I'll go ahead to join the shoulder. Now I've gone ahead to join the shoulder. Now this is what I have. So I've turned the back and turned the sides of it. Now I'll go and stitch everything down. So I've stitched everything down and also used I've piping the bottom part of the blouse as well. Now you can add any sleeve of your choice. I went ahead to use my chantilly to add a long sleeve. Now for the bottom part, I've already gone ahead to sew a pencil gown that I'll be using for the bottom to join it as a gown. To get the basque effect, I'm going to be marking the middle of this gown, and then I'll be coming down by 4 inches. It depends on how the difference between your half length to your blouse length. So I'm coming down by 4 inches, and I will connect it with a straight line close to my waistline. Now I have a skirt tutorial. I will just link it in my description in case you don't know how to make a pencil skirt. So now I'm just going to be cutting it off, but I'll be leaving half an inch. Now I'll first of all go and stitch it down to make sure that it is in place first of all. Now I'm going to put the skirt on it like this, so I'll be able to mark out the part where I'll be joining it to. I'll just use my chalk to make sure that I rule it, so that I will see by the time I flip it over to join, I will know the lines that I'm going to be following. So first of all, I'll mark it like this to get the middle of my gown, to make sure that it is entering the same part where I have my basque. And yes, it was. So I'm just going to pin it down, and then I'll rule it with my chalk as well, so I can see the lines. You can rule it all the way to the back as well. So by the time I'm done ruling it out, I'll just go to my sewing machine, and then I will stitch it on it this way all the way to the back. Now you know that we have bonings. We've already boned this dress, and we have plastic bone as well, not just sewable boning. We have plastic boning as well. So I'll just turn it this way, and then I'll place the middle of the skirt where I have the deepest part of the basque. You can notch it a bit to give you a little bit of ease. So I'm just going to place my sewing machine on it. Now the part that we have the plastic and the sewable boning, when we want to stitch, we'll stitch it and then we'll jump it over. Now you notice that if I get to a certain part, I will stop. I'm actually pushing my machine, and I will jump it over, continue to the other side. I'll continue with the other side, and that is how I'll sew it all through. By the time I sew to a certain extent and I notice that there's a bone, so you have to be slow. You have to take this part very slowly. I'll sew, and then I will raise my machine foot and make sure that I jump over any bone that I have. So that is how I will sew it all the way to the back. So you notice I jumped that bone over. That is, I will just repeat the same process all the way through until I'm done sewing it. So when I get to the ending of it, it doesn't really have to get to the extreme end, but when you get there, you just make sure that you double stitch. So I'll repeat the same for the other side. When I want to go to the other side, I'll make sure to fold this place a bit so that I'll be able to sew to the end very well. If not, it's going to be really stressful. This part is not very easy to sew, but just do it gradually. So when you get to the end, double stitch, and then you take it out. So now I'm done with the sewing. So all I'll have to do now is to just flip it over and iron it. So I've gone ahead to flip it over. I'll just go and iron it on my ironing table before displaying it on the body form, the mannequin. So this was it when I was done sewing. So that's it, guys. This was the final outcome of this dress. Will you be trying it out? I also have another detailed tutorial of a corset dress on my channel. Like I said, I'll link it in the description, and I have a detailed tutorial on how to cut and sew a pencil skirt in case you want to learn that as well. So guys, I'll see you in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.